My name is Rosa Menkman. I'm a Dutch-based artistic researcher, which means that a lot of the work I make, artworks or writing, they come out of me diving quite deep into a subject, usually connected to resolutions. Resolutions are not like how people normally define them, a quantitative pixel value. I think of resolutions as more complex, meaning they are a way to make things function, but they're also always inherently a compromise between settings, expectations, and that can involve, for instance, a financial or a speed or a quality compromise. And because when we use our media, we often think about how to use it normally, and we take all those standards or standard resolutions as things that we don't really have to engage with. We often don't think about them, and that means that we don't really consider what is being compromised. And so in my work I try to kind of pull the compromises to the surface through narratives, basically. And so it's twofold, my practice. It's theoretical and artistic. We're right now in Trugamore, in the center of Rijeka, at my solo show titled Image Remains. And I wanted to use that title because when you think about image remains, it kind of makes you wonder, like, does that mean that the image is dead? Does it mean that there's some type of like leftover stuff? And I am not sure myself, but I think it's about how you enter the exhibition. So you enter the exhibition and you immediately walk up to this big, kind of oppressive, fancy red wall. It has high skirt boards. It has kind of a color that looks expensive. And on it there is an image mounted of a similar wall. And that wall is a wall that I visited when I went to an exhibition in Berlin. In Berlin, in the Bode Museum, there was an exhibition about the Angel of History. The Angel of History is a painting by Paul Klee from 1920. It was acquired by Walter Benjamin in 1921. And Benjamin, he was touched by that angel. That angel, since he acquired it, it always came with him through his travels. Benjamin committed suicide in 1940 when he couldn't outflee the Nazis. And when he passed, some of his last writings reached Hannah Arendt. Hannah Arendt is also a philosopher. And that was the thesis on the philosophy of history. So in that writing, he writes about what the angel of history means to him. And the angel of history to him is kind of this messianic creature that wants to leverage this power to bring the voices of those that are oppressed, that are killed, that are have lost their voice through historicism. Historicism was at that point the only way of writing history. It was a linear history written by the one in power, the one that got to write the history. So the angel of history would try to bring an alternative history writing in which there is a multiplicity of voices. There is the stories that are lost. And to me, that is a really touching narrative. I think it's still, and even again today, so important to think about who gets to tell what is truth, what is history, whose stories are actually being told and put forward as the truth, the governing narrative, right? So to me, the angel of history was always very powerful. And when I finally reached the museum, the Bode Museum in Berlin, and got to meet the angel, long after I was already completely connected to her story, I met her on that red wall, and I was very touched emotionally, but I was also very confused because it was different than I than the angel that I knew. And it was different for multiple reasons. It was different because of the installation and the location. But there was also something about me going to Berlin in a time that I felt it was strange to go to Germany in general, because I'm not completely in agreement with German state politics at the moment. But I had to see the angel. But I was very much confronted with her being in that political sphere, let's say. And so when I got the actual exhibition catalog, in which the curator describes why and how and the meaning of that exhibition, I read that they actually had her on loan from the Israel Museum to celebrate 60 years of good relations, or relations that now finish the story of Germany's guilt towards Israel. So she became a national symbol for reconciliation, which is an ending, right? It tells a linear story of history of Germany versus Israel, or, you know. And I felt like that is actually completely the opposite of what she stands for. She stands for not an ending, but in fact opening up things, stories, problems, loss, grief, remembrance. And so that's kind of the concept that I'm trying to consider through this exhibition, is what is the angel today? And she's many things. She is indeed still the painting by Klee, the painting that is held by the Israel Museum, but she is also what is in popular culture, what people tattoo on their bodies, how she is a meme on the internet. She's also the protagonist for Voices That Are Lost. But that means that the way she's contextualized, mediated, etc., is not just that one image, that one monoprint. It's many versions and many materialities. And so behind and next to the wall in the exhibition, you will see my angel, and how she traverses different contexts, and how she reflects on those contexts and tells story about those contexts, and looks into resolutions, meaning not the standard ways of operation, but going and breaking open the machines and trying to see if there's alternatives. So let's get into the room. We can go either left or right from the red wall. On the left, you will find a little comfortable sitting hook. It's not a very pronounced part of the exhibition. I wanted to build in a little bit of space for thinking and contemplation, and so what you will find there is a little catalog is maybe too much to say, but it's a little zine that has this story specifically about why we built this wall, what the angel means to me, and what the angel was already in the past as a prologue in that little zine. So you can sit down and you can read, and you're sitting next to a little light box. The little light box is the angel of history next to a creature, which is a cyclops. They're not holding hands, but they are clearly kind of like friendly, engaging. And the lightbox has this like Fresnel lens. That's a lens that people use to disperse light normally, or to zoom into stuff. But it gives this like weird optical effect, which is, I like it a lot. It's an analog play of light. So that's the left side of the wall. You can go behind the wall and walk to the right side of the room, and you will see first on the opposite side of the light box, you will see a poster mounted on the wall, which is kind of I would say it's a device. It's not a map, but I want it to be something like a map where the angel plots her story, her narrative, through the ecologies of image processing, let's say. So different ecologies in which images move through the world. Specifically, I define 3 different states there. It's the state of the image of the angel and her kind of escape from the wall, her escape through time, which is horology, a fancy word for time, or timekeeping, and refractions. And those three kind of moments that are mapped on the wall are also present in the room in the form of three videos. The videos are poetic. They are also narrative, but they're also mostly poetic, and they document the travels of the angel. First, you can enter it in multiple ways. It doesn't have really a linearity to it, but if I would enter it through the right channel, funnily enough, which is the red channel. On the red channel, you will see the angel of history still in her frame, yet also kind of escaping through different render forms. So she's a wireframe and she is a shadow. And I would then go to the second video on the left, which is more of a greenish video, which is the time video. And then finally in refractions, which is for me where the story kind of not loops, but it loops to the beginning, the other side of the room. Refractions is really the bigger video piece that I've made in the last years. It's a long story, but I can tell you the short version of it. The angel learns that there's different ways of looking. She is stuck, being pulled towards the future, always seeing the wreckage of the past. That is the story that Benjamin writes in a thesis on the philosophy of history. She wants to fix the wreckage, but she cannot. So she's still moving towards the future, seeing only the wreckage of the past. She's, for 100 years, looking at destruction. And now she wants to see another way. And she learns that there is another way of looking, and that is a cyclops vision. A cyclops, in this case, Odin. He is a creature, a mythological creature, that has learned to see his own demise by sacrificing an eye. So what she wants to do is to learn from a cyclops vision by meeting them, and then see not just wreckage in the past, but also wreckage in the future. And so in Refractions, this last video, that meeting happens. And the question becomes like, what can you see when on both sides, in the past and in the future, there is only wreckage?